Happy President's Day. This is John Rawlings with Realtalk 97.5 FM. Please join us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Realtalk 97.5. I have a very special guest coming very, very soon. Mayor Langdon will be joining us. She's en route right now, and she's going to be joining us very, very soon. I wanted to make sure that one, got on the air in time, and two, uh, I wanted to highlight a couple things that I know that are happening. Uh, the On Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all of these things, the social media site for the city of Northport is readily available. And those of you who are just joining in, uh, keep in mind Commissioner Langdon, Mayor Langdon is on her way. She should be chiming in anytime. But I wanted to let you know that the social media sites that the city of Northport pushes out are readily available on their website, thecityofnorthport.com. It would be www.northportfloridafl.gov. And if you go to the social media side, you will find a list of Facebook for development. You'll find it for fire rescue, parks and recreation, the police department, Instagram for City of Northport, different things like that. So if you check out the website, there is a huge amount of information there that you can access and have, the most up to date. And I know that they work really hard at trying to keep the information flowing readily available for consumers, or in this case, any residents or potential residents that are coming into our area. So if you at all have an opportunity to check this out, please do so. It is very, very important to keep current on what's happening in our city and what the potential is down the road for changes and growth and different things like that. I will just click on the Facebook link, uh, and I'll show you Commissioner Langdon's or Mayor Langdon's Facebook. Each commissioner also has their own page. As far as I know at this point, I've never really highlighted it, but I've always had them on the air, believe it or not, right away. But Commissioner Barbara Langdon has 272 followers, and she does put a lot of information out, a lot of highlights of what's going on. Um, Rick Johnstone hosted the Northport AM show the other day. They talked about different things there. Commissioner Langdon is very, very active on getting out into the community, and really, I gotta say, most of our commissioners are highly, highly active. I think almost 24/7. There's, I've seen Commissioner Pete Emmerich out there, Barbara, Jill Luke was amazing as far as activity goes. Still, a lot of our past commissioners have really stayed steady at it, and really made themselves readily available for you know any citizens who need help. That's the one really cool part about our town, is the fact that you've got an opportunity now that most people don't have in a lot of cities, where you actually can talk to your representatives at a local concert, even at a local fundraiser. Debbie McDowell is a huge part of, and so is Barbara Langdon. I've seen her there too, but over at the food bank and the food drive, and they're very active, very giving, always giving back of their time, and trying to move things forward. If you've got somebody in need, and I'll stick there for a second. If you've got somebody that's in need of food, go over to see Awaken Church Food Bank. It's on Pan America. It is just past the city water uh, water treatment plant on the left-hand side. Up on the right, just before or just right after the first entry to Trot Circle on your left, that food bank is right there, readily available. And these commissioners, they work a lot of hours out there. The church staff, the volunteers that come in. If you've been to the local food drive, please throw out a comment. They can see that. Barbara Langdon will be joining here shortly. I'm just kind of going over some highlights. She was en route, and I know that she's probably close to her house now, but we'll see how that goes. But the commissioners and all of the volunteers at the food bank, they really, really, really try to get in there and get things done, and really take care of business when it comes to making sure our town has what it needs to survive. I'm going to slide into the Northport United is what they're saying here. We are definitely a united organization when it comes down to it. You can see a lot of the different things that they post, the hiring situations, they post that out there. They've got all kinds of information for any consumer at any time. They try to keep this updated. This was one day ago about the holiday collection. President's Day does tend to slow some things down. There will be no delay in solid waste collection. All garbage, recycling, and waste and bulk collections will take place under the normal schedule. So if you're out there and today's your day, you're getting it done. That's for a lot of cities, that's a big deal. And right now, we're just drove around and coming up through the Port Charlotte area. They're still doing a lot of repair down that way, and there's still debris and blue tarps. We're still kind of blessed here. We're in a much better transition, I believe. And Barbara Langdon is now where I can chime her in here. So I'm going to bring on Barbara. Barbara Langdon, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, John. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I was actually highlighting the Northport Facebook page and encouraging everybody to check out the northportfl.gov and go to the social media so they could get really up-to-date information, such as the trash collection and different things like that. They do post that on the website so that it keeps citizens more informed, don't they?
Right, absolutely. And you can also download the recyclable schedule.
Yep.
You can download it into your Google Calendar if you do that. I tend to be a little bit old school. I printed it out and it's on my bulletin board because sometimes my neighbors are wrong. So the strategy of sticking my head out and seeing what color is the predominant color, that doesn't always work. So I consult my little printout.
And it's amazing how many different ways we're trying to push information out.
Yeah.
And so I have to ask, and I don't know what your schedule was, and we talked briefly, but we were managing our time a little different. But what was your schedule like today on President's Day?
So this morning I started my taxes. That was not happy.
Wasn't that a blessing?
Oh, jeepers. And then I went scooting up to Nokomis because I was having a lunch with two angel investors because we are heading down the road of creating an entrepreneurship center here in the city of Northport. Some folks might recognize Business Incubator, that might recognize that language a little more easily. But I was just getting some advice and counsel from folks who invest in these kinds of things. And I got some good advice. So there's a lot of work to do. So and then a little after 3. I was shooting for 3. I was running a little late. I'm sorry. You're showing my beagles.
I am. How
You're
about
on
that?
my commissioner page. There they
Yeah,
are.
they're famous.
Oh, they're infamous. They're brats. Oh,
Gotta
hounds.
be
You've
spoiled.
you've got to love the breed. You really have got to love the breed,
Absolutely.
or it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
We can talk about all kinds of things. I can talk about the business incubator. I can talk about
Let's stay
economic.
there real quick. Let's talk about that because
Yeah,
that's I think that's been
a
a hot topic
desire.
now for many, many years.
Yeah, it's been a desire for a really long time. And what really spurred the activity was Hurricane Ian. After the hurricane came through, the city's economic development team hosted a regional meeting where a lot of federal and state folks came in to talk about how they could help. Northport is having been one, excuse me, one of the communities most severely impacted by the hurricane. And one of the gentlemen who was speaking, I believe he was from DEO, the Department of Economic Opportunity. I might have my acronyms a little twisted, but he was talking about the fact that they have a little bucket of money to help communities that are disaster sites, and the city of Northport was certainly that, and that they had money available to build a business incubator was the term that they used.
Wow.
So I'd been aware. I mean, certainly doing something like that was on my list of economic development, my wish list, my economic development wish list. And so when I heard that, all my radar and my ears and all my digits kind of stood up at attention. And I said, we've got to go with this. So, of course, the city is really interested in having that happen. And we reached out, we've had a couple of work meetings, I would call them. We had Minnesota SCORE, Charlotte County SCORE, the SBDC out of Fort Myers. Of course, Bill with our chamber is involved. A woman, Kim, oh, I might not remember her last name, but she's from 26 West, which is a very successful incubator that is on the campus of USF in Bradenton. She's involved in the group, and we had a couple of an angel investor participating. So it's coming up with a plan and sort of figuring out let me back up. What I've been learning, because I've been reaching out to people who are way smarter than I am on these things, they're all different kinds of incubators. So we need to be really, really clear on what are our market conditions? What are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to stimulate fast growing companies, or are we doing more of what might be called economic gardening, helping the companies that are here get a little bigger? And it's important that we be very clear on what we're trying to accomplish, because some investors and foundations are interested in economic gardening. Others are more interested in identifying companies that have the potential to scale really quickly or grow really quickly. So I got a couple of really good documents from my meeting today that can help us walk through what we're really trying to accomplish. And I will share with you, the city does not want to own this thing. The city does not want to run this thing, but we want to make it happen. So the city manager and his staff have been hosting the meetings and getting all of the notices out and that kind of thing. City manager will make, if we want to take him up on it, our grants team available to pursue grants to help us get going. So there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of things to think through. And we're trying to move as quickly as we can in an environment that's not terribly quick moving. So
What 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 is with what do you think our focus is? Do you think we're looking at the fast growing, let's get it going, or do you think we've got a good foundation here and we need to kind of anchor some of our businesses down?
well, I have to tell you, I'm still mulling that over. So I think knee-jerk reaction would be some general economic gardening. So that would be a more broad-based economic development goal, which is, taking a look at the businesses that are here and just trying to get them a little bit bigger. But the more I thought about it, I said, gee, we do have some homegrown businesses that really have the potential to scale or grow. And because I haven't talked to these companies and I'm looking at it from a 50,000-foot level. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but Lightspeed, our IP telephone service provider, they're a really sharp group and they've been doing really well. They have the potential to scale. And then I was thinking about our tequila restaurants, Blue Tequila, and they sort of did the right thing. They built that business. And then in pretty short order, they opened a Pink Tequila, also in Northport on Toledo Blade. I believe their Lime Tequila out in Charlotte County has been operational now for a few months. And it kind of occurs to me not knowing anything about them. So let's be really clear, just kind of at a 50,000-foot level.
I'm in there a lot.
Yeah.
There's a fourth location coming.
Where's that going to be, John? I hadn't heard.
I believe that's going to be north. I want to say north.
But I'm sort of thinking, wow, they might present when you sell, what's a franchise? They could be, they potentially could have a really cool franchise opportunity. And I do want to acknowledge Chuck English. He's been saying hello. He and I have been trying to get together, and my calendar is a disaster nightmare. So Chuck, I haven't given up. I'm going to reach out to you. We will find a time for coffee. But anyway, I'm really charged up about that. And, part of what motivated me was we lost the Hive. Of course, the Hive was not an incubator. It was a co-work facility. Nothing wrong with that, but a very different model than what we're looking at. But the folks who were involved in the Hive are part of that working committee that's taking a look at how do we bring this kind of a resource to the businesses, not just in Northport, but really in our general area. So right. I'm really charged up about that.
So, you've got a lot of, I think, good structure set up. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a lot of input from mm-hmm. a lot of different areas. And I'm curious because I got to think that the Braden model, they're more, and I don't want to say advanced, they're a different city than we are, mm-hmm. that their downtown structure is mm-hmm. really kind of a small town feel.
Right.
A nice downtown structure, which we don't truly have that style here.
Right.
And right. I don't know that we ever will. Do you think we will at some point? Or do you think we're going to look more like maybe the Punta Gorda style?
It's still hard to tell. I mean, I'm a practical person. I'll take whatever I can get. But ideally, I think Northport has the opportunity to have several little mini downtown areas. Now, we're rapidly losing that ability as we continue to build housing in our activity centers. But, we have that potential. Now, my frame of reference, I have two frames of reference. I grew up in Boston, and in a big city like Boston, and New York's the same way, Chicago, you have different centers. You have sort of the financial district, and that had a certain flavor. We had what we called Chinatown, and that had a very Asian flavor. The shops were different, the food was different, the whole vibe was different. We had the North End, which historically was our Italian area. Same kind of thing, very different vibe, different food, different feel. And I think we couldn't do something just like that, but we could do something along those lines. I mean, we're certainly big enough. And if people want to go out for a quick sandwich and a beer, they don't want to go from San Mateo necessarily to Welland Park. That's
True.
a half an hour
True.
to get there if they just want to do something quick. I mean, you might want to go to Welland Park once it's built out and spend an afternoon, because there'd be enough things going on there that would enable you to do that. We also have that potential at Warm Mineral Springs on a much gentler, please don't misunderstand me, I'm not suggesting Welland Park development at Warm Mineral Springs. Let's not go there.
Right.
But we have an opportunity to do some sensitive, gentle development in that area that could make it a destination with a very different vibe and experience. So the potential is there. It's really going to take the will of the community. We all need to work together and not fight each other to make these kinds of things happen. So I'm very optimistic. I spent my professional career in marketing. You don't go into marketing and sales if your glass isn't half full. Is that a double negative?
Well,
you don't go into sales and marketing if your glass is half empty. You have to be optimistic by nature. Would you agree, John?
100%. I've been
Yeah.
in this sales and marketing industry for many, many years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always interesting to see what's happening in Northport, because we're such a blank slate, so to speak. And we have a unique ability to draw people, and now we're drawing business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe this is one of those times where we might be ahead of the curve on trying to think outside the box,
Right.
on what is the next move for businesses. Because
right.
20 years ago when I moved here, business structure was a lot different. Box stores were the talk, and we need box stores. We need box stores. And the pandemic kind of moved things out of the way with that, because it brought my age bracket and older into the 21st century on software and ordering things online and being able to get your groceries delivered to your door, which we I think a lot of times we miss the opportunity to say the good that happened from the pandemic, because we actually have a lot of seniors that are able to stay home better today and safer today,
right?
Because things can be delivered to the door, and there are essential items, the food, the different things that they need to survive. And I think a lot of times we take that we take that component out, and we don't think how great that actually is.
Right.
But it's changed the way business minds think.
Right. And it has been really a boon for this area. Yes, some older people have moved in as a result of COVID and a number of other things. But what has also happened is a lot of tech workers with that work from home thing have become disassociated physically from their companies. And so there's been a real trend, and this was starting to happen anyway, but COVID was sort of the great accelerator. People who had the kinds of jobs and worked for the kind of company that would go along with work from home sort of said, oh, here I am living in New Hampshire, the land of ice and snow. I can live wherever I want. Let's go to Northport. Let's go to Sarasota. Let's go to Southwest Florida. And so now we're seeing an influx of people with a new skill set to the area. We're seeing a lot of movement of small software companies into North County. We'd like to see some of that action here in South County. But it's just a really, really exciting time. And back to the original question, probably one of the things we need to noodle our way through is 80% of the businesses in Northport are home-based.
There.
Is that an opportunity to grow or not? So we need to talk about that, think about that, work our way through that. And on this past Saturday, in fact, the picture you're showing, the banner picture on my Facebook page, is I was welcoming several new businesses to the city. The city does a little welcome ceremony once a quarter. And in Q4 of the calendar year, so October through December of 2022, 28 new companies moved into Northport. Wow, 28 new companies. That's huge. And they weren't all there on Saturday, but the companies that were there, I asked them, why Northport? Some had been here a while, and they were sort of moving in from other areas. Others were relocating. Several were international. There were people from Switzerland, Honduras, Miami, just from very different places. And they've just, Northport is on the map. I mean, people are recognizing Northport. I just really, John, I'm so excited. I just feel us making that turn from kind of a sleepy little quiet area to being a place where people want to be, where businesses want to locate, where people want to live. And one of the comments I made to the businesses assembled on Friday, that they're a huge part potentially of our future success. People want to live here, but they also want to work here. And we really need to work on that. And while I'm on that thought, I want to share with you, a week ago, Thursday night, there was a big meeting at Solis Hall. Do you know Solis Hall, John?
I don't.
It is a meeting venue in the city of Northport, and it's not a room in a restaurant. It's a big meeting room, and guess where it is?
I have no clue. I'm excited.
Downtown Welland Park.
Oh, well, and that just opened, didn't it?
Yeah, it just opened. In fact, I was talking with Rick Severance before the event started, and he was saying you should have seen us the past day or two sweeping up and fixing last minute things, and all he could see were the things that weren't right. And I said, Rick, take a deep breath. Everyone else is looking at this building and going, wow. So, and it was the event was put on. It was a joint effort between the Economic Development Corporation of Sarasota County and our own economic development team here in the city, and landowners and current businesses and people thinking of locating their businesses here. John Horn, who bought the family table, he's the owner of the Anna Maria Oyster Bar. He was there, all charged up. And it was a panel of 3 people, Rick Severance from Welland Park, and I butcher people's names. So if anyone hears me, I apologize in advance. But Mr. Varander, who's the CEO of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System, and Mr. Friedman or Freelander, who is the executive director of Benderson Development. And the topic, what they were sharing, is what are their respective organizations, what are they doing now, and what are their plans for the future that will help transform Northport and some of the surrounding areas, transform the community for tomorrow. And what I want to share with you, and it was sort of jobs that kind of got me on this path. Mr. Verander from Sarasota Memorial was sharing that, there'll be 2 hospitals. I know you track this stuff, so you were aware of that. And they're going to develop, if I understood him correctly, they're going to develop them both simultaneously. And they're hoping 2025 will have groundbreaking on Sumter and 75. Very exciting. He said by the time all is said and done in today's dollars, Sarasota Memorial will invest $1 billion in the city of Northport. I mean, think 2 hospitals, 150 beds each, the jobs that are coming into this area. And we're seeing it in the stimulation of a lot of apartment developments. We haven't had very many, we have more affordable housing developments than we have market developments, but we have several market rate apartment developments in the queue. And what is spurring that to a great degree are Sarasota Memorial's plans in the city of Northport. So I'm just so charged up. It's incredible. What a wonderful time to be on the commission in the city of Northport, or to even be a resident here or a business here. It's really very exciting. But I'll keep quiet because I know you like to weigh in on these things.
Oh, no. You're giving great insight on why people should be appreciative of the time that we are in.
Yes.
A lot of us have been here 20 plus years.
Right.
And there's something to be said about the finality of a hospital being built.
Right.
Even the one at Laurel Road.
Right.
The fact that, and I think they misjudged that one because it was too small.
Well, I'll tell you, John, it wasn't a misjudge. They were only authorized by the state to build so many, and no one anticipated that. No sooner had they opened their doors when SurePoint closed theirs.
Right.
So you had those kind of 2 things, and they're expanding already. I just drove by there.
No, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and they're already building an inpatient bed expansion at that location. It's wild what's going on.
Well, that is, you're correct. It is state governed, and while one closed and one opened,
right,
it wasn't an even swap to begin with. On top of that,
he had 300 beds, I think, or in that vicinity, right?
So I think we're short. How many does the new hospital have? I don't know the total there.
On Laurel Road?
Yes.
I think they opened at 110.
Well, see, we're a negative.
Right.
We're negative already on bed space.
Right.
Knowing that, and knowing, I've got 20 something years medical, and have been part of conversations now about how the system in the state of Florida works with bed authorization. That's it's a fun topic if you are willing to have honest words.
Right.
Because there's a lot of manipulation that goes on between the hospitals because of battle for territory. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that while I think their target, while I think they would have changed their plan if they knew SurePoint was going out.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the state would have looked at it differently, as it would have been a very different conversation.
100%. And on top of that, the influx of people moving to the state of Florida and in our area has not slowed down. Everybody says, oh, it's going to slow down. No, it really is not slowing down because they can't get out of the northern states fast enough.
Right.
And they're coming and they're retiring on top of it.
That's right. And so it'll soften. You're in the business. You tell me. I'm always asking my realtor friends, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? Is the market starting to soften. But you share with me, I think the last statistics I heard was 65%, 65% of the sales were cash sales.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
not.
fact that the mortgage rates are going up doesn't really come into play if people retiring and selling their properties and coming down here loaded with cash. It doesn't really play. And yeah, we have Rick Johnstone. I chatted with Rick last week on some of these topics. And SMH is also talking about urgent care. He didn't share what will happen to the emergency room. I suspect that the emergency room portion of what we have on Toledo Blade will no longer be there once the hospital opens, but they do want to open an urgent care facility. And I have to wonder if they might not convert that location. My doctor, primary care, is on the second floor, and I have all my x-rays and related things and blood tests and everything done at that Toledo Blade facility. So I'm sure they will keep that and they'll rejigger it, perhaps to be an urgent care.
Well,
Yeah.
on top of that, there's a need for the medical building side of things here. While we
Right.
are doing a really good job as far as drawing things in, most cities have older buildings. We don't have those, so
No.
they built a campus at at, at Sumter.
Right.
That's actually going to change the whole structure over there,
Oh,
because I think it's going to blow up all four corners at some
oh
point.
yeah. Oh yeah. We're seeing it already. And one of the things that Mr. Um, Feynman, the gentleman from Benderson, they've been building that sort of prime industrial buildings up on Toledo Blade near the highway. And some people weren't happy with that. They would rather have seen some other kind of industrial. But for me, I applauded that because for the first time, we had prime industrial space that people could rent. I mean, we don't have that in the city. And the gentleman who spoke at Solis Hall said the only mistake they made is that they started too small. They haven't even finished construction of the expansion on that location. And he said it's almost full. There's a line of businesses that want to locate in Northport. And because it's in such close proximity to 75, it's right off 75, it's perfectly located. So just very, very exciting. Of course, I have my fingers crossed, my toes, my legs crossed, my eyes, everything's crossed to attract some manufacturing here, maybe medical device, medical equipment, some kind of manufacturing, again, because the rich array of jobs that kind of a business attracts. And it doesn't recycle money in the city the way retail does. It brings new money into the system known as wealth. And so we haven't seen that in a big way yet, but it's coming. It is coming.
What do you think the influx uh, in in and I say this because 2 years is going to fly,
Oh,
because 23 is here,
mm-hmm.
and we're a couple months into 23. So we're talking about 2 years away from groundbreaking at some point, maybe two and a
Right.
half years, depending on when they do it,
Maybe.
what
Right.
month. But when you look at SMH as a whole and what happened at Laurel Road,
Mm-hmm.
it's intensified a lot of things in that Laurel Road area, and I think it because of how Venice is laid out, they already have on the 75 corridor, they have hotels there.
Right.
So the one lacking feature that we have is that when they build this at Sumter, you still have to go in town basically uh, to get a hotel room if
Right.
your loved one is in the hospital. Now,
Hmm.
hopefully that will take a lot of the northbound traffic for people going to see loved ones at Sarasota North.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take that and bring them here, but we're still talking about a lot of people who visit, who come down here, who will end up drawing people in. And I think we're going to end up needing at least another hotel at that or near that exit, aren't we?
Yes, yes, but there are some hotels planned in the Welland Park area. So off River Road, now that's still 2 exits away.
It is.
And
But the nice thing is
I'm
River
just
Road
trying to
is.
think what's really left in that area where we could build a hospital. There are probably, I'm sorry, a hotel. There are, a couple of spots where that could happen. We need to get our act together on Tamiami. We have huge rezoning work to do. We have some annexation work to do along Tamiami. I haven't had too many head exploding experiences since I've become a commissioner. I've had a few. And one of them was when I learned that some of the zoning on Tamiami in Northport is neighborhood commercial, which is a much gentler footprint. So, neighborhood commercial is the zoning you would see in the major intersections of like Price and Cranberry and, Price and Toledo Blade, some of where those main arterial roads intersect. Those are commercially zoned. It's neighborhood commercial, so smaller footprint, a little gentler. We need heavy duty commercial retail development along 41. So we have a lot of cleanup work to do. The work on the ULDC is well underway. We're starting to see some of the air quote easier chapters. Staff is beginning to release some of the easier chapters, but what staff has been working on and simultaneously sort of updating the comp plan a little bit, but they're not doing strategic visioning work. They're just trying to clean up conflicts between the two documents and redundancies and lack of clarity. They're not doing any real strategic work. And I'm hoping that this year we get into some really heavy duty. What do we want to see where? Personally, I think we need to double and triple our commercial slash industrial. I'll just call all of that commercial with a small c. We have 8-9% of our 104 square miles has a commercial land use. 8-9%.
Shouldn't that be shouldn't that be larger?
It should be 18 to 30%.
And
To have a healthy, for a municipality to be able to balance its books effectively at build out, that's where we need to be. And if we get to build out with a 9-10% commercial land use, I'll be dead. It's not going to impact me 20-25 years from now. But the reason I ran was to get us on the path so that 20 years from now, we're in a good position and we have a solid, diversified industrial commercial base here in the city. We have jobs here in the city, and we have enough commercial of all types development to help offload the taxing burden from homeowners and property owners. If we don't do that, it's going to be a mess in 20 years.
And what is a mess?
Mess is
be blunt.
So what will happen is one of three things or some combination. And I'm not making this up.
Nope.
We're seeing it happen in the Northeast in some bedroom community areas. So one of three things start to happen. Your millage rate or property tax goes through the roof. Municipalities start selling the land that they own. So Dallas White Park, that would be prime property for us to sell for, and I'm not suggesting this, but municipalities start selling whatever land they own, which is typically parks, in order to balance the books, or they start cutting back on city services. So who wants any of that? I don't want any of that, but that's the path we're on. And I just want to leave this earth knowing that my little corner of Southwest Florida is on the path to future prosperity and the ability to maintain a high level of city services and to do it at a millage rate that most of us can afford. So it's basic economics.
So if we don't get on this path, what we would consider affordable living,
right,
has the end result of being unaffordable living.
Yeah, we think it's unaffordable now.
Yeah.
Wait until your millage rate is 10%. You want to talk about unaffordable?
What's our millage rate today?
3.785, or
Yeah, but
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
and our millage rate up and down the coast,
It's lower than Venice.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we're talking a city north of us right now, and we're better off with our millage rate than the city of Venice.
Right. I think they're almost a point higher. I haven't looked at the numbers in a little while, but I think it was.
Do you know what their percentage is on rate for commercial?
I don't, off the top of my head, no.
It's got to be higher than ours.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they've got different areas that have kind of, I don't want to say blown up, but they've been consistent in growth.
Right.
The Laurel Road exit, you've got all kinds of things happening over there by the landfill. You've got PGT that's up there.
Yeah.
Even though PGT has locations here in Northport, they still have growth there in the Venice.
Housing is exploding in Venice.
Yes.
Yikes. East of 75, but also even west of 75 near the highway. All kinds of huge apartment and condo complexes going in. More intense development than I would want to see here in Northport.
Got another quick question, because he's got a couple up there, but we've only got about 6 minutes left.
I know.
But if you'll read that question, I think you'll understand what he's saying. But
I do. It would hurt. I mean, losing that commercial footprint.
So we're talking about losing Welland Park area.
Yeah, it would be two negative impacts. One is would have even less commercial space because would lose that downtown area, would lose the stadium, and the housing in that end of town is overall higher than in Legacy Northport. So if you have, just to keep the math simple, if you have a millage rate of 3%, 3% on a $250,000 home is a lot fewer tax dollars in the kick than 3% of a $700,000 home. So that's the economics of it. So it would be two impacts. But in all honesty, I think the impact on those residential communities would be worse than the impact it will have on the city. Because, and I think you and I have talked about this before, the water treatment plant, the safety center on Prado, all of those assets were built by the developer. and not because they're philanthropic, but because the city is paying the developer back. Let me just back up. As soon as construction was complete on the water treatment facility and the safety center, those assets, the ownership of them transferred to the city, and now it's our responsibility to operate and maintain them. We are paying the developer back through a schedule of reduced impact fees that goes on for the next 20 or so years. If we de-annex, the city can no longer collect those impact fees. The developer isn't going to be paid back for those assets from the city. So who do you think is going to pay? The de-annexed area, right?
Right.
They'll be assessed millions and millions and millions. Now, I don't know what those folks are thinking. I'm delighted that we're resuming. You remember next year we had to meet the new city manager, and Northport Forward, sort of a civic nonprofit in the city, worked with.
Fantastic job too.
They did a fantastic job. They're teaming up again to do another series of events, and the first one is in Welland Park. And we'll do as many. If the different communities want to have us come in and do it just for Island Walk, for example, we'd be delighted to do that. So anyway, and hopefully we can start educating people on what the real facts are. It's just unfortunate what's happened there, and I think a lot of people have been fed incorrect information, and so they're operating on information that just is going to lead them down a bad path. So, do we have another hour, John? Do we have like another hour?
I wish we had another hour.
I know, I do too.
I can stay on. I can actually stay on. I can't stay on the radio, but what I can do is I can go over on Facebook a little bit. If you'd like to start a topic, I'll just have to get us off the air in about 2 minutes. If you truly want to stay on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, I can do that.
Have me back. I really want to talk about Warm Mineral Springs, because again, that's what's going on in the community. Is there's erroneous information or misunderstood information that's causing people to panic, and it's heartbreaking. I just don't. Everyone needs to take a deep breath. And there's a core of people that want nothing to do on that space. We're never going to make those folks happy. But I think there are other folks that would be open to some development on the surrounding 60 acres, but not what's currently in the public sphere. And I agree. I mean, the plan that we currently have, and hopefully there'll be more coming in, is not necessarily representative of what the commission and the city wants to do there. So we could talk for an hour just on that one topic.
Well, I tell you what, I want you to pick the second, the third, or the fifth Friday in March, and that's your call. You tell me what you want, and I'll get you scheduled on those days, the second, third, or fifth, and we'll get that out with plenty of notice. But I put up Northport Forward. If listening audience, please check out Northport Forward. They do a phenomenal job. They're trying to get you the information you need to make a streamlined decision, and they're doing the background work for you. They're trying to be really a non-partial representation of information, which is very unique. They do a fantastic job at it. Please keep that in mind as you're trying to find information, trying to get your schedule set up for any future meetings that they're having with the mayor. Check out Northport Forward, and that'll do you a great justice on getting your schedule set so you can get primetime information.
But and I have written March 10th in my calendar.
March 10th. So
Second
Barbara
Friday.
Langdon will be back March 10th.
It's
Awesome
right
job.
then.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being part of the show. Have a
Thanks.
wonderful weekend or
You
week.
too.
It feels like
Yes,
weekend still.
I know. It feels like Friday, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I'll talk to
Thank
you
you,
later.
John.
All right. Bye-bye
Bye-bye.
now. Be safe all.
You too.